Step one was to go to the grocery store. Jim needed supplies if he wanted to pull this off. His plan was to pull the best April Fool's joke in history, and he needed it to work perfectly. Jim walked up to the cashier once he got all of his items, practically jumping with joy. "I'm not supposed to ask," the cashier said, "but what's the shuriken for?" Jim blushed at being confronted and looked at his feet. "A friend," he lied. "Okay," the cashier said, rolling his eyes. Once he got out of that store, Jim couldn't believe his close call. If someone found out, he told himself, I would have been in big trouble. Laughing at his great fortune, he ran to his workshop. It was an old wooden shack that was furnished with an old chair and a desk. It had no windows. Jim took a deep sniff and breathed in the musty old smell. He let out a happy sigh. "Well, no time to waste. I better get to work." After working for hours, it was finally time to reveal his master plan. "This will be so awesome," he shouted with glee. It all would have worked if Steve, Jim's nosy neighbor, wasn't listening in. Once Jim opened the door, they were face to face. "How much did you hear?" Jim questioned. Steve ignored this and instead asked Jim a question on his own. "What's that behind your back?" "Nothing." Steve peered at the object that Jim was holding and screamed. "What the heck is that?" Jim knew that he'd been caught. "It's my April Fool's Day prank," he said sadly. "Why does it look like a weapon of mass destruction?" "What do you mean? Hand it over," Steve demanded. "What? No!" Steve tried to grab the object, and Jim struggled to keep it away from him. "You're gonna break it," Jim shouted. There was a loud bang, and Steve fell to the ground. "I warned you," Jim said. Steve nodded and then shut his eyes. Jim was shocked. "You're not dead, are you?" he stammered. He didn't get a response. "Sorry, Steve," he said as he walked away. Jim felt so bad, but he didn't even use his prank. Later, when he tried to fall asleep, he woke up with a jump plagued by nightmares about what happened to Steve. Eventually, he fell into a deep sleep, only to be woken up by someone shouting over a megaphone. Jim stumbled over to the window and saw Steve. "April Fools," Steve said. After that, Jim fell into a pit of insanity.